welcome back to another episode of Reinventing Finance. I'm very happy with my current guest, Lars. Lars, how are you today?
Very good. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
For those of our viewers and listeners who don't know you yet, why don't you just briefly introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, look, I'm German. I think you can hear this. Yeah, but after working and studying a while in Germany, I actually moved to Spain, where I've met my wife, and then I moved to Zurich. And in the last 3 years, I have been in Qatar in the Middle East. I consider myself a digital entrepreneur. I've built companies for companies or for myself. Some things worked out and others were rather a learning curve, but I think this is what I like to do, doing new things. And I do this professionally right now in a function of being the Chief Digital Officer of Qatar Insurance Group.
It's interesting. Do you have some examples of the both, some kind of businesses that you've built for yourself or for others? And more importantly, what are some maybe intuitive or even counterintuitive learnings? Something that you don't get on your LinkedIn meme startup, kind of mumbo jumbo that everyone seems to adhere to. Some counterintuitive learnings, if there are any.
Look, I think one thing that maybe is interesting to share is, obviously I have a couple of gray hairs already. And I was able to build together with a team from our client, a digital bank in Spain, the year 2005 to 2007. And if I look back then, it was almost everything around IT. And if I look now where we stand, 15 years later, it's not about IT anymore. It's about product and getting the right setup of the organization in place. So it's actually interesting how we have built things in the past and how we're building things right now, because this agile way of thinking and the flexibility that you have with IT not being a problem anymore is really changing the way how we address business challenges. So I think this is one of the learnings. I think the second learning is that IT is ever changing. And I think the AI is helping us to do things differently, even though it is still a lot of hot talk about it. But if you go deep, and I think we go deep, you see things where you say, wow, it's really interesting what you could potentially do. I feel remembered somehow in the time when internet came up, and we all have been thinking about what could internet actually mean for us as people, and what can it mean for the business. So in the year 98 and 99, 2000, it was a really interesting time. And I feel a little bit like this. Everything is new, it could be done differently. It's there. Most probably it's not there, but the chances that we're getting interesting things are actually coming up. So it's an interesting period of time to live in. I think what I base everything on it is this experience that I have in building successfully or not successfully companies and products. And I think it all comes down to people that you work with that either fit or don't fit or get to fit together. A little bit of luck, or a big part of luck, because I think you, Nikolaus, you have built companies as well. So, it's just a little bit of luck belongs to a company's success. But also the vision and the way how you execute. I think this is what you need. And at certain times, if I look back on the things that didn't work out, apart from the people issues, sometimes you have to understand that what you've built may be funny to do, but there is not enough market for it, even if you earn some money, but there's not enough market for it. And then you have to be radical and say, well, that's it. You cannot continue. You have to find something else.
I think that's interesting that you kind of bring it close, because I wholeheartedly, as someone who sells IT, I sometimes want, guys, don't worry about it. The business case is not going, you can absolutely fuck your business case with the wrong IT. Don't get me wrong. But it's not gonna, what's your business? What do you need? IT follows whatever a business problem you're trying to solve. And, there's enough IT infrastructure out there. Don't worry about it. Worry about, product market fit. But then I thought it was quite interesting that you said, and I feel this is what a lot of kind of insurtechs, everyone was now about product. But then we build all of these products, but they, at least in my view, there's been not as much uptake as you would have hoped. And so I feel almost that, and you mentioned that as well, there's not enough market, I kind of go, even forget product for a time. What's your market? What's your problem? If you don't have distribution, it doesn't really matter. And just to say, and if it's B2C distribution, then the key point should be, how do I manage customer acquisition costs? And not just, oh, we'll growth hack it. Right. But I agree. It kind of comes back full circle, and it's just to say, where's the problem? And then working backwards from that. And I feel it seems like a normal journey in when starting new things. There is a meme out there: first time founders focus on product, second time founders focus on distribution.
Yep.
And I feel that's that's true.
And I think it's even more in insurance, where you really have
Yes.
to push product, right? It's not the product that everybody wants. It's like you have to get it out. So if you don't solve the distribution problem, then you don't solve for anything. Yeah. So I think this is key for it.
And then the second thing, and let's kind of dig in, because as you've said, AI is everywhere, right? Everyone's kind of playing with it. I would just like to, and we don't know, right? But what is maybe two things? What are some use cases that you feel are beneficial to use right now, or which you would like to use, and maybe what would you, if you could venture a guess, to kind of keep your eyes out for other insurance and insurtech professionals, to not get bogged down in the hype, but also not, it's not working for me, I'll ignore it. What's your sense around AI?
Yeah, I think I did refer back to the period of time when internet came up, and I said internet, not social media or mobile apps. Those are tools. Yeah. Really, internet changed the way how we were thinking about business. And I think this is, for me, the core of doing everything in AI. Yes, it's a tool set that can do things faster or differently, but in the end, you're trying to solve a business problem. Yeah. So getting something out differently with a different mindset. Where until recently, we were thinking we need our brains in doing it, our hands to do it, but the LLMs give us opportunities to potentially do it differently. Yeah. And this requires a certain kind of mindset to find out what it is. And then obviously, yes, there are the classic AI use cases for in the insurance sector. But I think rather than talking about this, it's, for me, what I've learned, it's rather a transformation journey that you need to go through. So understand, where's your company? Do you have enough people that are able to grasp something totally new that is not charter territory, but actually you have to think about it and see the options, the opportunities that are there, and see how to get it done. So you need to find the people that can go with you on the journey. And then, as a lot of things are promised, you actually have to do the journey on yourself, right? It's not about getting 20 different providers in and you buy something from anything. No, I think what I fundamentally believe, this is changing the way how we operate in insurance. Is it changing the way how we move within the insurance value chain? And this is not to be outsourced. This is something that I strongly believe you need to execute on your own. You have to make your hands dirty. You have to learn, because we do this. Yeah, we see things that I thought were easy to be done, and finally you come to the components that, yes, this small component is still lacking. Yeah, and until this component is solved, you have to put it on a shelf and actually wait for half a year until somebody has solved this problem. So it's a really interesting, exciting times, yeah, because your brain is requested to think, yeah, and to test things, yeah. Otherwise, it's easy to say. You go claims, you get call center, you say one-to-one marketing. So those are the use cases. Yes, but how do you implement them? This depends on the company you work for, because everybody has it differently. So there's no blank thing or thing to copy from. You really have to adapt it to your own structure. So this is how I believe it's really funny, really interesting.
And would that mean, if I'm kind of understanding you correctly, is that you would recommend putting out some serious money to hire that talent, which is rare and expensive, and sit around and come up with, present them with problems and come up with novel solutions, as you don't feel that a, let's say, consultant or vendor relationship who might allegedly or truthful or not truthful provide these services, just kind of and how does that tie into that creating something totally novel? How does that tie into, and by the way, I don't disagree, and I think it's totally fine to hold two conflicting thoughts at the same time. How does that tie in with the learning that we've shared previously to say, if you don't have distribution or call it user acceptance, right? That's the same thing, right? If it's an internal thing. If wouldn't they then solve, or how do you overcome them solving problems or providing solutions to problems that the users or the distribution channels didn't even ask for?
Yeah.
And then you just create expensive product again. That's great. But it's just, innovation without adoption, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And I think this is what nobody can do. I think we went in all the innovation departments through really 2 hard years. Yeah. I think it seems we have seen the ground, but I think if you look into innovation and insurance and see the headcount globally, I think it went down to 50% at least, right? So we've been going through hard times. Yeah. I think everybody that does new things in insurance just need to justify a lot why we're doing it and what is the business outcome. So this on the later part of your comment or question, but maybe coming back to the original part of the question, what is the way how we can execute? And I believe, at least for us, it's not about hiring hundreds of new people that are all AI experts. Few insurance companies are big enough to actually sit on that much data that they can build their own LLM. We are medium-sized, we're one of the biggest one in the Middle East, but we are a medium-sized company and compared to the global peers. I don't think that we need to. What you really need, and this is what we're trying to do, is a small team, 5, 6, 7 people, which is in the end an agile team of 1 or 2 people that are thinking business and 2 or 3 people that think about IT. Yeah, and what we do is using the capabilities that are available on the cloud for AI. And this is where we see a change compared to 2 years ago. 2 years ago, if I wanted to go claims and AI, I need to go to one of those 3, 4, 5 providers that did AI and claims and insurance, because they have been invested a couple of years and they had a unique engine that will work for me. With today's landscape, I don't say we can, but I believe we are on a good way toward it. I can replicate this with our own data in a matter of weeks. In some areas, days. And we have proven a couple of business problems in days. So I don't think that what you said, do you need to hire super expensive people? Yes, you need people that understand a little bit of IT, yeah, but it's not that complicated anymore. If you work on the cloud and work on the tools that are available on the cloud, you can do things for your organization that are much faster. And this again is some sort of paradigm change, because everything fancy came from InsurTech in the past. Mm-hmm. And working with InsurTechs, and I've been working in my previous company with you as well. Right. So, but I believe fundamentally we changed this relationship. So we're rather going back to distribution and products working with InsurTech, while the IT part is something that we need to figure out on our own. Why? Because I'm sitting on a wealth of data, so I can train the models that I get from through the cloud much better than you can, because you don't have the data. So I think it changes the way how we cooperate. And then, like anything in this world, it's not that you need to do everything on your own, right? We work on our own, but we have a couple of consulting partners with us that help us in certain problem statements that we just don't know how to do it. The key message that I want to give here in this podcast is do it. Don't wait on the sidelines. Yeah, don't wait until you hired somebody that is really the crack. You don't need to be a crack. If you think about business, if you have somebody that understands a little bit of IT, bring those 2 people together and give them half a year to work on things. And in a matter of 6 months, you most probably can do 3, 4, 5 POCs. Mm-hmm. And you can execute them that fast because the tools are fast in the meantime. So I believe, again, it's the way how we operate is changing. And as consequence, it changes the way what we can do as impact for our own company and the insurance value chain.
I mean, to me, that sounds like everything that, how to move under high uncertainty in the early stages of POCs or startups. That has been true for all time. Move fast, bring it out. I would say, whether you, quite frankly, I think whether you insource or outsource something is a matter of access, speed. I think I don't, depends. I would say. I think it likely depends on what you're trying to achieve and how much time you think you have on starting to get on that journey, as you say, because it'll be unlikely to kind of say, now it's a pop-up in my in my whatever, a Google pop-up or Microsoft pop-up, and that's it. Yeah, right. I think it needs that iteration. And I think we now just have is it just an additional accelerant to what we have before? I'm just trying to understand. I'm not sure I do understand. I'm not hearing a step change yet. To me, this all sounds super sensible, and just how doing innovation leaner.
Yeah, I think it goes beyond that.
Okay.
It's not just one crazy idea that you try to follow up. I fundamentally believe it impacts almost everything in the way how you operate, and in big and small. Yeah. So if you look into the business process of one individual person working for a company, you most probably can identify a couple of things where AI can do things totally different and let his brain work more and doing less manual tasks. And this goes to the next level of this department. So I'm coming back to what I said in the beginning. For me, this is rather a transformational journey. Yeah, because you need to take the team with you, and you need to take the organization with you, and understanding what is the opportunity. And I don't think that I grasped everything. I have a good feeling on where we could be in the next 2 or 3 years, but it's also clear that you need the people with you. So for us, and I don't say it's the right way of doing it, but for us, we have been starting at a point where we were assuming, and I think this rightfully, that most of our employees have been exposed to ChatGPT and these kind of thoughts in the last 18 months. So what we said, okay, if you have been trying this in your private life, then let's see, can't we try this in our professional life? And as such, we've identified a couple of people that really have been power users that I was not aware, because they were just powerful using the ChatGPTs of sorts, right? So, and we built a group of people that really had an exposure there. And for them, it was quite easy to contemplate, what does it actually mean with my work? And we discovered not hundreds of business cases, but a lot of business cases out of comparing what I do in a private life to how can I use this in my business life. And out of this, then we have started a couple of projects. But you need a baseline, and you need people with you that are thinking. Because in the end, it's not like we typically do an innovation. We see this, wow, this is this fancy idea, somebody has done it, and I bring it in. On this side, I think we work differently. We rather work as a good organization where everybody has an idea how to move on. And you need to activate those brains of the people to get the ideas to you, and then you help them to get them executed. So we need to have an execution that helps the business departments or individual users to make the best out of what AI can do. So it's rather a classic business transformation, right? I think this digital transformation is mainly used or misused by IT providers. They say, oh, digital transformation is there, and they want to tell me a tool. No, I mean business transformation and transforming people's life and people's way of work. And AI can help in doing it really interestingly.
Awesome. No, understood, and can confirm that I think there certainly is tremendous potentials with people being educated increasingly around the potential and limitations of what these large language models can do with their use of ChatGPT, and kind of grassrooting it, because that is, I'm a big believer, if if an organization just improves 1% any kind of smaller time frame, and you just add that up, it just compounds beautifully, and is certainly something that I would encourage any organization to add to their roster of whatever growth, profitability, transformation, whatever label makes sense and is part of your strategy. I think it's it's just continuous improvement in a different shape. And thank you for sharing that and appreciating it's a developing field. If we kind of just take a step back to kind of your role and what you're doing as Group Chief Digital Officer, but also head of your digital ventures partners. Do you have some examples other than what we've described in AI about the things that you've what does success at the end of the year look like? What are your KPIs, and what are some things that you have done and that you would continue to do or might change, so we can glean some learning from you?
Yes, thank you. So look, Qatar Insurance Group, even if you have Qatar in the name, we are a regional insurer, one of the biggest, the third biggest in terms of premiums, the biggest one in terms of assets in the Middle East. So we are in Qatar, market leading, number 4 to 5 in UAE, 3 in Oman, in Kuwait. And the other half of our business is done in London, where you sit from time to time as well, with Antares Reinsurance and Lloyd's Syndicate. So it's a really interesting group. We have the whole portfolio in retail, we have the whole portfolio in commercial insurance, right? Plus the reinsurance and the Lloyd's. So it's an interesting company setup where you can do a lot of things, right? We have the capital strength to take risk on our own books, which helps you to do more with the insurance value chain. Yeah, you just don't have to focus on distribution and get your a couple of percent out of it. Plus an organization that is in the place for a couple of years, or for 60 years already. So we have a brand, and insurance, at least on both sides, B2B and B2C, the brand, if you don't have it, it's really expensive to build. We have it, yeah. So my job when I came here was to see what we can do and identifying new digital business opportunities. And I don't mean channels. We have somebody really good in doing the channel work, and I think we have been growing really massively. But rather seeing, is there anything new coming up where we can do our business differently? Are there products out there that we can do differently? And for that, we have built this unit, QSC Digital Venture Partners. And as the title say, we are trying to bring in products that somebody, other person or company has invented outside. So we bring them into the region. Yeah. This could lead up in some sort of venture, even though that you rather focus on getting the products in. We do invest into insurtechs that fit into our investment theme. And this is mainly around companies, again, bringing products in that we don't have, if we want to get to a portfolio, or companies that are in markets where we are not in, but have an interest in. And over the last 3 years, we have been one of the, if not the most active insurtech investors in the Middle East. Yeah? If you exclude accelerators, I think then by far we are the most active one. We're not a VC fund. No? We don't have 20 companies that we invest in. We need to fit, but nevertheless, we are constantly looking into companies to invest. And I think the third pillar that we do in Digital Venture Partners is ecosystem work. So when I came here, we actually seen that compared to Europe, US or Asia, the insurtech ecosystem was not really strong. So we've tried to work on this, and you cannot work this as one insurance company, even one of the dominant ones. So invited other companies to join us, and we've built the MENA Insurtech Association, or association and initiative, to work together on this level. We can compete on product, yeah, but on this side, we work together with the biggest insurance companies. And then I think in the last 3 years, we have established here a couple of knowledge sharing events. One is the MENA Insurtech Summit. It's a yearly event that we have here in Doha. In 24, we had 120 speakers with us, coming from the outside the region, that come to learn from the region, and the region learns from them, right? The very best insurtechs, 45 investors, 45 insurance companies. A really interesting networking event where we do things together. And I wanted to invite everybody here in the podcast to join us there. That is obviously clear, but I think this is what we do. So, and doing this work on identifying products and partnerships, investing, but also seeing the ecosystem moving, helps us in our job. And our job is, in the end, even though we do a lot of innovative work, but in the end, I need to contribute to the bottom line. Yeah, so I really need to bring in the products or investment opportunities that help us to grow QSC. So this we do this, and over the 3 years, I think we had a couple of changes in the organization on our side, and a couple of changes in terms of focus, because you start with something and then you learn how it's actually work in a different region, and then you adapt it. But I think we have built a name around us on what we do.
And since you're mentioning focus, could you kind of elaborate a little bit because I think what I'm trying to kind of distill is a little bit that I think you're right that there's been a change in how insurers consider innovation. I think there has been certain, let's say, not all expectations have been met around what has been invested, and whatever return time frame someone would have taken. And I think it would just be interesting to kind of share around where your focus originally was, what your focus is now, and why that is, and if anything, there are any kind of best practices that you would recommend some colleagues in similar situations that have kind of worked for you, who might be working either dedicated in an innovation team, but just trying to, bring the company forward, whilst management and shareholders might look at, quarterly results. Any kind of concrete examples, I think, would be super helpful.
Yeah. So look, I think we have done a couple of things differently compared to 3 years ago, but this is an individual and market specific action. So I don't think that my wisdom speaks to anybody else. It's a specific findings that we have. But I think two things that we've done is, one, we started our journey with some sort of venture building activities. I thought this is a sensible thing to do, because we haven't seen enough innovation in the region in terms of insurtech. So we thought we need to impulse this by building our own ventures. We came to the point last year that even though that we had a proper team in this, that we are not fast enough. And the markets, and this is, I think, another of those points, the markets that we're living in are really small. So you know how complicated insurtech, being on a product or an IT side, is. In small markets, you need to scale to other markets, and there are seven. So we found that we are not executing at the level that we wanted to be. So we have changed the setup there, and we really focus on what we've done in the past, new products, but not new products as ventures, but new products as getting them into our mothership. I think this is one. And then in the second, it took us a couple of years to get us known and our initiative known, but also see how the ecosystem reacts in terms of new founders, new ideas, and getting things out. So we have been running insurtech competitions for a while, and we've changed this year because we see the ecosystem behaving and seeing things on its own. We don't need this impulse anymore. So we're actually moving rather into what we believe is a missing part, an insurtech accelerator, and not accelerator for an idea, but accelerator in companies that actually have something, and they need a specific insurance guidance to get things out. So we talked about distribution, being front-end partner, capacity partner. And I think insurance or insurtech for products, insurtech for tech, just works differently. The different timelines, different ways how we operate in a regulatory framework, and it is push product, right? It's not a product in the banking that you just take, right? You need to push this product, and this makes us different to banking. So I think those things we have learned. And then maybe coming to the third area, we say, how do you create the impact? And I think we created impact with the core of our business, but we always, and I think this is important, had to look into how can we help our core company with input, with possibilities to change, even if there was a hidden change. And we see this a couple of years later, we actually see what we have done as an impact for our company to change, to think differently, to be more agile and getting more ideas into and through the whole organizations. So it's not about CVC or innovation and do crazy things. So you have to create an impact. And this impact is not measured necessarily in 3 months. You can do projects in 3 months, but even if you do something in 3 months, you cannot measure it. So we have in this front always this problem, but after a year working on it, you see that actually you have impacted your company, and the people around you see that you have impacted it. I think this is the best way of getting the things out and stabilized in a more complicated environment where innovation is, because you have your S curve, it's going up and then it's falling down. It will fall down. So you need to have something in a piggyback to actually move on.
So do you think that can it even be measured, that, let's say, non-tangible or less tangible, more qualitative aspects? Should people try, or is it literally a matter of communication, and at the end of the day, sometimes also trust? I think the main point about innovation is it is novel, it is uncertain. You do not know. That's the whole point. So are we back a little bit? Is it a conviction-driven thing? Or can you put that into a balanced, I'm making, I don't know whether people still use balanced scorecards. I'm just making this up. A balanced scorecard, and, to say this is novelty, 10 ideas put in is the same as bottom line or commission income or gross written premium. Is it even worth it? I mean, I think it's not, quite frankly. You either believe in it, and you have the resources and the stamina, and the current situation in your company where you feel this is beneficial for my company to leap forward, and we're not wounded and need to lick our wounds and need to make sure that we don't get wiped off the board or something else. It feels a little bit like that, but I don't know.
Spot on. I think, yes, if you talk to consultants, innovation consultants, they all come with their KPIs, and but no, I don't believe that you really can measure it. Not measuring in KPIs that you find before. Yeah, so this is really complicated to get things through, because in the end, it's everything new. So it's how do you measure something new that you're doing? Yeah. But I think it's important, similar to if you work in an agile environment and you do the sprint perspective, so the reviews. If you go back after half a year or after a year and actually think about what have you done and how have you impacted the organization, and then talk with people and explain them how you've impacted it, and actually say, oh, there was something that I've done. There was something that we actually brought to the company that is not measurable with the core PPI, right? So for me, it was around the summit that we did have, right? So I think this way of thinking, how we are faster, how we grasp opportunities, how we are getting things done, it's different now compared to when we started this journey. And this is obviously through a CEO that wants to do those things differently, but then you need to go through the organization, and then there's a lot of people that don't like changing things, right? So you still have to keep fighting, and then fighting different ways, and then you can at the end explain even then, so there's something that we built. So is this something enough to justify your work? Well, this is a debatable thing, and this is where we are in innovation, and everything that we know. But yes, you need to at least attempt to get a bottom line impact for the company. And I think every forward-thinking CEO understands that what we do is relevant, because you actually take the organization with you and you do it. But this is how we have done it. We always looked not only from the external point of view, but we also looked into how can we, with our work, influence our own company to the better.
No, I think that makes sense. It certainly resonates. And when you kind of, in the beginning, you said you kind of have to have luck, but in order for Fortuna to be there, you also need to have resilience or stamina. And so I think the expectation to come up, it's again, like anything, it's the thought that the idea, it has such a big impact about the full transformation journey, is only for those who only have had ideas and haven't had to work through. You focus, you think the idea in the, it's like that guy, I've had the Uber idea in the pub. It's like, but you continued drinking your 15th beer and you didn't follow through, right? And I think it's that grit, that tenacity, and sometimes just, being there when the timing is right, I think is important. And so I would, as you've also said, I think rather than looking at trying to find, it's like finding your team, rather than figuring out, here are all the metrics that I want to control you with, because I'm so scared that I might have picked some wrong. Just focus on getting the right people and trusting in the input, because the output you quite frankly cannot really control that much. I think that resonates. I think it holds true, and it goes a bit against this whole thing. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. But maybe that's the thing. You can't really manage innovation. I think those two things don't really go together, because if you could manage it, it wasn't innovation. It was something else.
Yes, I agree with this. Yeah, I think the big consultants have all the frameworks, but in the end, it's about what you said, stamina and getting things done, right? And there's a difference between a consultant and actually doing it in a company. Yeah, it's not innovation theater. It's complicated to get new things through.
So if we were to shift a little bit towards the market and other things that you've mentioned, what type of products, solutions, approaches do you think should some of our listeners who might come, predominantly from Europe, but maybe also the States, and who might think, oh, Middle East seems to make sense. Where would you say, kind of from a pull factor, to say you would like to see more of X in the market, and maybe we don't need another Y here, because we've gotten enough. Some sense checking there.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and this is what we daily work on, right? I think the market here in the wider region really only knows until now classic insurance products. Yeah, so you have your motor, car, yeah, you have your health insurance, you have a little bit of life, but this is why the environment is different. Yeah, but we only have standard products. We don't see very specific products for specific use groups yet. And this is where I believe big opportunities are coming in. The structure of the insurance companies here in the Middle East is that maybe you have one handful, maximum two handful of companies that are strong enough with their balance sheet to take risks. All the others call themselves insurance companies, but rather brokers. And if you're just a broker, you just don't have the money to do new things. You just have to follow. So the responsibility of getting new products in is laying with those handful of bigger insurance companies that, you know how this is. Bigger companies are not the fastest and the most innovative ones. So I believe this is where we are. So if I look into it, and we work on this daily, if you have an interest in joining us in the Middle East, the markets are really interesting. There's money, there's growth. There are two things that need to be clear. One, they're small, fragmented markets. Yeah, so it's really 3, 6, 10 million people markets. And it's not EU, so there is a regulation differently in every country. So scaling from one country to another is a challenge. Yeah, so you need to think about this. This is one. And then second, if you're thinking about product and not IT, coming back to what I said, only a handful of companies are able to do new products. If you come with a product and you just have an idea, or have used this product somewhere else, and you're not coming with reinsurance capacity or your own or befriended Lloyd's broker behind you, this most probably will not fly, because the underwriters and the actuaries that we're having don't have the experience in building massively new products. So it's easier to come in with a set of things. It's my product. I have this experience. I have data. I bring the reinsurance with you. I need you to join as a fronting partner and take part of the capacity. I believe that's the easiest way, and I think we're working with a couple of companies, and a couple of those companies are part of our MENA InsurTech Accelerator now, with accepting this set, because this is easy and this is quite fast to getting it out here in our region. If you think,
what do they need to bring? Sorry, what do they need to bring with? Is that so? Do they need to have do you then expect they bring their own business development personnel, operating personnel? How boots on the ground does this need to be when, for example, working with you as they might not have yet?
Yeah, and they don't need. Yeah, I think this is depending on with whom you partner. Yeah, on QSC, through our digital venture partner structure, we have those things. Yeah, so I don't need business development. We would integrate this into QSC. I think the other big insurance companies have similar setups, maybe not as, let's say, progressive as we are, but there are similar setups there. What you really need is an existing product that works in a different country, yeah, and some sort of reinsurance. and the data behind it validates what you actually can do, right? And then I think there's a way into the market. If you just have an idea, it's complicated. If you just have a little bit of product experience, then usually it doesn't work. So that is what is needed. As I said, all the markets are really small. So if you believe you need your own license in a market, then you need to have teams. Yeah. If working with you with the fronting partner and the capacity partner is good enough, and then you'd sell this product not under your name, but you're licensing out this product, then I believe you can easily and quite lean enter the MENA market on insurance products. Tech is something else, yeah, but we can talk tech as well.
Yeah, what else would you say? So this sounds to me, I'm an established MGA or a business, and I have and then I can go into the MENA region for fronting capacity and some, but also business development and operational support, depending on, how that product looks like. That makes sense. Do you see interest in other enablers around the insurance value chain? Not all IT, but could be TPAs. Have you seen, or do you feel, listen, we have our own ecosystem, or we do it ourselves? We're really looking for, the end of the day, what you're really looking for is kind of validated product innovation that might come from different markets, not an EU-based chatbot that does AI. I don't know. Maybe you are. I don't know.
Yeah. Look, and I think this, if you ask the question in Europe, you would get answers in favor of both, depending on whom you talk, right? Mm-hmm. We're obviously one of the biggest insurance companies, so for us, it's the product side that is interesting to see, yeah, because we see things, yeah, and we want to test things and want to see how we can move them. Do we need another AI chatbot? I don't believe so. We have clever people in the Middle East that are able to build those things. Yeah. And as I said in the beginning of our call or the podcast here, I believe the way how we interact with InsurTech on the tech side is changing. But this is our case. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you go a level down into the smaller insurance companies, they don't even have the infrastructure internally to do those things that we do. So for them, yes, certain IT solutions are relevant. So it's just a matter of to see who is really your target segment. Everybody goes for the big ones, but the big ones usually have an environment where they can deliver it. So you need to go a level deeper or lower. And then I think there are clients for IT solutions as well. But again, it is small markets, and it's a rather, even though they call themselves insurance, but the majority is broker driven. So there is limited use for IT solutions in this kind of environment.
So just to kind of finalize that point, what would be any additional recommendation of how to be successful in the region? Being, let's say, an established MGA business with a unique underwriting edge that also applies to your region. Is there anything else that you would that's specific to the region that you might be a bit surprised to, let's say, some other Europeans who also been traveling, etc. Right? We're not talking about people who've never left Germany or something.
Look, I think this goes a little bit too deep for the time that we're having here today, but I have this discussion every week with companies that have an interest in it. I think there are two things that I think come to mind, and it's maybe misunderstood. So one, the wider political situation that we're living in here, with the conflict that we have in the middle of the region, it's not really helping. But the diversity of countries, beliefs, and ecosystems and economies is massive. So people need to start thinking really about what are my markets, and it's not necessarily the market that is the loudest, like UAE for insurance. That might be not the best market for it. So it's really, you need to, like, going to a new continent, make your homework. So this is one. The other is that even if it's Arabic countries, it's not necessarily needed to have everything Arabic. the majority of the people, if we exclude Saudi, at least here in the Gulf area, are people from the outside. So English is the mandatory language on everything. So you actually have an entry barrier that is lower compared to what people think, because everything, I need to have Arabic, and depending on what you do, not necessarily. And connecting to that, we have an unbelievable diverse population with people, millions of people not coming from the region, but coming from different countries. Name it Philippines, Nepal, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan. So, and depending on which country you have an interest in, the population quantity is different. So it requires usually somebody from the region to help understand how to do the right steps. And I think this is where we, for example, come in, because we are in 4 markets here. Yeah, so we understand this quite well, and we have partners in the other markets. So we can do things. It's a little bit like Europe, but only a little bit, because in Europe we have this one framework where you can almost execute everything in all countries. I'm sure it's different, but it's easier to get licensed here. Don't have it's regulated, and you have specific market needs from people that are not coming and staying forever. I would say 90% of those people living in Gulf State come for a period of time, with 3 or 25 years. I don't know, depending on the population that you talk to, but everybody goes home eventually, except the locals, and there's a small percentage of locals living in those markets. So it's not about Middle East has money, market are growing, I go. It's more complex. Like everything. Going is complex. So you need to find the right people to talk to and see how you can grow your business.
Conscious of time, do you think there's something that we haven't touched on yet that you feel might be interesting for our listeners, or anyone interested in working with you guys, or entering the region in general, or something to learn from the region that we haven't been able to cover yet?
No, I think your questions are really good. I think we have covered the main things that I believe are interesting to the region. If we continue the discussion that we just had, what do we need to do if you want to have an interest in a region? Then what I would do is invite people to this conference. The MENA Insurtech Summit will happen again next year in May, 10, 11, or 12 of May, here in Doha, which is really an epicenter here in the region. Have your 3-day event, getting everybody together that has something to say around digital insurance, AI, Insurtech, investing in Insurtech. It's a powerful networking event, and for a couple of selected people, and you have to talk to me. We even do a trip to the desert. So we usually take something like 75 people into Jeeps and drive through the desert and have a powerful networking there. And then we have 2 more days where we do a deep networking and really interesting conference meetings and panels. So if you have an interest, I think that's the best thing. You talk to us or just join us in our conference. I think we will find a way how this podcast get a discount for the tickets as well. So and then we take it from there.
Lars, thank you very much for taking the time and sharing your experience. I'd say anyone considering entering the region, they'll hit you up. You certainly have some more stories to share. Thank you so much for your time and insights.
Thank you so much for having me.
Goodbye, everyone.